I'm not sure how intentional it was, but the entire church is decorated almost exclusively with the color purple and empty jugs or empty jars, and symbolizing so much of our own emptiness and need to be filled by the Lord, our own desire for that living water that is from Christ Himself, and highlighting so much of the themes of our scriptures. So for the third Sunday in Lent, we hear about the Israelites grumbling in the desert as they wander out of Egypt, and they're so thirsty. And the Lord instructs Moses to strike the rock, and the spring wells up. But they grumble with God from this place of emptiness in their hearts, and that grumbling, is sinful, but it also kind of communicates that emptiness within them, their parched hearts and need for relief in that living water of Jesus. Ultimately, in the end, in the fulfillment of that old covenant. But in the gospel reading as well, the woman at the well, she comes there, alone and barren in her own right. Not so much, wandering in the desert of the real desert, but wandering the desert of her own life. Seeking water in these different relationships and in worship that is not of the Lord. And so she comes to this well at midday, hot and thirsty and needing to be refreshed. And who is there to fulfill that real longing in her heart? But it is the Lord Himself. And to revisit the the relationships that she has. It could either be about the husbands that she has married, or it could be about false gods and idols. No matter what, Jesus puts Himself there in place of all of those things that this woman has placed before the Lord, and in which she had sought fulfillment and found none. For us in our own lives, we leave, the comforts of life sometime, or even, connect back to last week. We get a glimpse of the glory of the promised land, or the glimpse of the glory of the resurrection, and come back to, or hit a famine, or come back down the mountain. We hit the desert, and what do? We grumble before God, in need in need. Right? We grumble before Him. We, go from thing to thing, from person to person in our life, seeking fulfillment. And it's only the Lord who can really satisfy that thirst that is within us. So, we're indicted in a way, but in a more tender way this week. Jesus invites us to come to the well ourselves and leave those things behind that are keeping us from Him, or in which we seek Him and find not the one who will truly satisfy.